Let's talk about competitions. I remember seeing a video from this powerlifter called Larry Wheels all the way back in, I think, like 2024. And one of the pieces of advice that he gave to people was to compete. If you're lifting, to compete. Because he said that competition brings out the best in people. And at some level, I agree with that. But on other aspects of competition, well, I don't know about very heavily, but I do disagree. So let's talk about it. I started off with competitions in, I think, elementary school. Uh, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I grew up in an Asian household, a Chinese household, and one of the canon events of growing up in this type of household is doing math competitions. For me, that was math counts in middle school, AMC in kind of the end of middle school, and also beginning of uh, just like normal high school. And then that's when I stopped because I eventually did get burned out. More on that later. But I remember at first, like when you first start a competition, I think what Larry Wheel said has a lot of merit because you do end up spending a lot of time to get better at something, and I think that's an admirable pursuit. When the thing that you're trying to get better at is something that is beneficial to you. But over time, I think what he doesn't talk about a lot, or maybe it's something that's not even really prevalent in bodybuilding itself, is when you either try to find shortcuts or because or when you start like seeing competition not as a way to improve yourself, but solely as a way to prove that you are better than others. And I think this mindset change has a lot of consequences with it. I know for me, eventually, competitive math, instead of trying to make myself better at it, I tried finding like, I'm not really sure how to describe it, like ways to get around the work that you actually had to put in. And not just that, I think more worrying than that was, I think at some point I started wishing failure upon other people instead of success upon myself. And that is not a healthy relationship to have with competition. And it wasn't just competitive math where I noticed myself at times having this kind of mindset change. And that brings me on to, I guess, the next type of competition I did, which was competitive programming, also known as CP by people who do it for some reason. I have a friend who does competitive programming. He's very good at it, and he always talks about how much he loves CP or how he's gonna do CP, or asking other people if they want to do CP with him, and that they just, I don't know, man. It's just they gotta find a new acronym for that. Anyways, for my fellow tryhards out there, you're probably familiar with a competition called USICO, the USA Computing Olympiad. But if you're not, basically what it is you do a bunch of these competitions, programming competitions. Usually there's, I think, 3 or 4 competitions in the span of a year. I don't remember. It's been a very long time since I've done it. And there's different divisions that you can get into. Everyone starts off in the bronze division, and then later on, if you meet a specific cutoff during a contest, you get promoted to the next division. So it goes bronze, and then silver, and then gold, and then platinum. And then out of platinum, the top performers there get invited to this thing called the USICO training camp, where they eventually select the members of the United States team for the international competition, the International Olympiad in Informatics. Now the thing about USICO is it is pretty rampant with cheating because it's an online contest. It's unlike other Olympiads in that sense, because competitions like the AMC, you're usually taking it at school proctored by a teacher, Yusaku is done fully on your own. It's not, you don't do it as part of like any school. You just log into the website on the day of the competition. You log into your account and you just take the competition. And they don't do a lot of identity verification. And as a result of this, there is extremely rampant cheating in it. I heard from one of my friends who is like very well connected in the general whatever competitive world, just because like he talks to a lot of people. But he told me that he heard, I don't know if this is true, so don't like take it with a grain of salt, but he told me that he heard that out of all of the people in the platinum division that were invited to the final like Yuzuko training camp, the basically theoretically the top competitive programmers in high school in the US, the majority of them declined the invitation. And the reason for this, well, the reason that we inferred was because most of them had been cheating and they would get caught if they actually had to go to a physical camp. And this is a problem that Yusuko has acknowledged, and it's a problem that they've tried to fix. But I feel like the success rate of those fixes have been in question at best. So why do people cheat in these competitions? Like, what's the point of cheating in Yusuko? Well, as it turns out, many of the top STEM universities in the United States really like people who do really well in these competitions. Schools like MIT, especially MIT actually, they really like people who are either in PLAT. It used to be that if you were like in PLAT, it was already, you were like almost a shoe-in for MIT. I think now it's like you have to go to the camp just because from what I've heard, it's definitely that the competition has lost a lot of its prestige because of the rampant cheating in it. And this kind of ties back to what I was talking about before, when people see competition not as like a way to improve yourself anymore, but as a way to either reap the rewards of competition, like the physical, the non-abstract rewards of competition, and because of that, they either look for an easy way out, or they start preying on other people's downfall. And I've talked a lot about, taking the easy way out, people cheating, all that stuff. Let's talk a little bit more about preying on other people's downfall, because this is a kind of character flaw of mine that I've always been aware of, but I've paid more attention to it, especially recently, just because I've noticed, like, after doing some introspection, I realized how bad it was getting and how bad it was. In high school, I did a lot of debate, and at first, for the first, 2-3 years of debate, I thought to myself, well, I didn't think to myself, it was just something that I did because I wanted to get better at speaking. I grew up as a super shy kid, and debate was something that really forced me out of my comfort zone. And I think that's one of the great parts about competition is when people want to win or to get better at something, they will force themselves out of their shell, out of their comfort zone, and do things that they otherwise wouldn't have experienced. And that was what I had for debate, at least for the first 2 years. So this was my sophomore and my junior year doing debate. My school doesn't let freshmen do it for some reason. And then in my senior year was when I first really started taking it seriously, because at some point I stopped looking at it as like a way to improve my own speaking abilities, because I think I was already satisfied with how good they were at some point, but I started seeing it as, oh, I want to win. And because of this, on the one hand, it did compel me to actually look at how to debate well in the style of the NSDA style, because I did National Speech and Debate Association. But I think more than that, I started hoping that in tournaments I wouldn't face good teams, which is like such a like a loser mentality. But truthfully, that is what I started how I started feeling. But second of all, I started in tournaments. I remember for the state tournament, which is kind of like for our school, it's like the end all be all because no longer go to nationals. I started hoping that certain teams would lose early or get upset. Good teams that totally deserve to make it really far in the tournament, I started hoping that they would get upset early so that my team wouldn't have to face them and we would have a better chance of winning. And that's just such a poor mindset to have, but it's just, I almost couldn't help it because I wanted to win so badly. And ironically enough, eventually my team was one of the ones that got, not exactly got upset, but we got unlucky. Long story short, it was a very bad topic that a lot of people weren't happy with that year, and we were on the wrong side of it in the elimination rounds. So ultimately, like, I think competition has its benefits, especially when you're first starting out. When you're still in that phase of, oh, I'm new to this and I just want to improve. I want to learn from the best. Because I feel like this is not something that is just. At least I hope it's not something that only I have experienced. But when you start getting good at something and your expectations on yourself increases from just I want to improve to, well, now I have to I have to win. I'm no longer someone that is new at this. I don't really have an excuse to, not win. I think that's when the bad aspects of competition really start taking over. And sometimes I wish I could start some of my activities all over again, just so I can kind of get that feeling of everything is new to me and I can feel myself tangibly improving every single day, and I feel motivated to improve every single day because I know that this is something that will get me a lot of benefit. I really miss that aspect of of myself. It feels kind of weird because I'm still very young, and this is something that, like, yeah, I'll probably do more competitions in the future. Like, I know this year, in first year in college, I've been interested in doing stock pitch competitions, and like learning how to do them. I feel like I've almost refound that feeling of I am bad at this, but that just means that I have so much to learn. And at the same time, I'm kind of worried that in the future, when this feeling turns from I want to get better to I want to win takes over, I'm scared of how I'm going to be approaching this. And I'm also scared that this is something that will happen amongst a lot of my passions, because it's happened to more than one of them, and I'm kind of worried almost that this is like a character trait of mine instead of just like a, I don't know, inherent thing of competition. Although I'm trying to treat it like an inherent thing of competition, maybe to make myself feel better, but yeah. I don't know. There's not really like a big message here, or maybe there is. I haven't really thought about it. Although if I had like put a gun to my head, if I had to say something, I think it would be enjoy the learning parts of competition more than the competing parts of competition. And I think when you approach competition in that way, that is when you ultimately gain the most out of it. Because like there's so many competitions where in the moment I felt really terrible about losing or not meeting my expectations in the competition, but like the skills that you gain carry over so much. Even for competitions where it doesn't feel like the work you're putting in is to improve some of your like overall character traits. Like I did Science Olympiad. Let's talk about that a little bit. And I remember during my senior year, the entire year I was working on this event called Tower, where you build something and see how much weight it can hold. Like I remember I'd be looking at like competition. I'd be looking at other teams' results that went to the Science Olympiad invitationals. Our school only did the regional and the state tournaments. So we really only had 2 chances to prove ourselves during the entire year. Maybe even one if we didn't qualify for the state tournament. And I remember the day of the state tournament, after we won first place in the regional, like my partner and I, we won first place in our regional. The year before, we had won third place at state for this event, and I was really, really gunning for first. And I fucked up. My partner was I'm not gonna actually go into the entire thing, but I had a substitute partner for the state tournament, and I had to take over the tasks of my original partner, and I didn't know how to do one of them properly, and that caused us to essentially not even really get a chance to compete. Like, that's how bad it was. We were not at all competitive because I fucked up. And like, on the surface level, it seems as if all the work had been for nothing. I know a lot of people say, like, oh, you gain skills. Like, for debate, you gain so many important soft skills. Here, at least in the moment, it felt as if everything had been for nothing. I've been working on this tower all year. At least on the surface, I hadn't gained any, like, inherent skills. I'd just been spending all my time building shit. But without even realizing, like, I had gotten so much better at, like, adapting to uncertain situations, just, like, improving my work ethic as a whole, really being able to throw myself into something and to be passionate about it. I think that inherently is valuable. So I think the end goal of what I'm trying to say here is, like, try to do competitions that you know will make you better as a person. Even if you never accomplished anything in it, you would still be happy that you had competed. I think those are the best types of competitions, and that's the mindset that people should go into when they decide to sign up for a competition or to start doing a competition. Like, of course, it's good to have high expectations on yourself to do well, because that will also reflect itself in your work ethic and the preparation you put in, and ultimately culminate in the things that you gain. But, like, don't put too much pressure on yourself to do well. You know, like, enjoy the journey, because you never realize how fast it goes until it's over. And I know people say this for a lot of things, but, like, it truly, like, the joys of competing are the invisible things that you gain from it, not the arbitrary trophies or placings or whatever that won't matter in, like, a few years. Yeah, that's the story for today.